California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are joined today by Thomas Wong. He is a director with the San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District, an elected position, elected a couple of years ago. Great time to be working in water. Scary time, but great time. I want to speak with you, though, about water districts in general. I think for a lot of us, we don't have a sense of what a water district is. We don't even realize that we elect water district members. Talk to us about water districts and what they do and what they can do, how we can get involved.
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely water districts. When I was knocking on doors, people had wondered we have a water district that covers our area. And so a lot of people were very hesitant or very just confused about what was going on. And so it was a lot of education when I was initially campaigning. But water districts, if you look at the region, the basin, in the San Gabriel Valley, you would never set up the water districts the way they are now if you had to set them up from scratch. It's just,
what's the history? Do you know, sir?
It's just every community that kind of grew up as they started to realize they didn't have enough water locally, decided to set up water districts to help bring in water, import water from other places into their own communities. And so different places set up different systems. And so what you have now is just this conglomeration. Different areas have different ways of governing how they manage water.
And in the San Gabriel Valley, which I believe covers about 2 million people, and it's a pretty defined area. You can have a sense of where the San Gabriel Valley is. How many different water districts?
Well, there are 3 wholesale water agencies. Our district, Upper San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District, 3 Valleys Municipal Water District. There's also the San Gabriel Basin Water Quality Authority. There's the San Gabriel Basin Water Master, and a whole bunch of local agencies in terms of municipal utilities, private water companies.
And the maps make no sense.
Yeah, the maps make absolutely no sense. There are cities that have 4, 5, 6 private water companies that provide water to different homes, and then there are cities that have 1 water provider.
So what do you do as a member of the water board? Let's take away the drought for a second, but as a general proposition, what are your responsibilities?
As a board, we make sure the district is being run efficiently and effectively. And for our district itself, we are a source of water for our local cities, our 4 member cities, Monterey Park, Alhambra, Sierra Madre, and Azusa. Each of them actually have rights to local groundwater that they can take out every year, but it's usually not enough to cover all of their needs, and so that's where our district comes into play. We make up for that gap between what they have available locally and what they need to provide for all of them.
Why does there need to be an elected board?
That's just the way the voters of our 4 cities decided to establish a district. They voted the district into existence in 1958 and have continued to run it by election in terms of 4-year terms.
Let's talk about groundwater, which we know on so many levels has become a hot button issue. I could go on and on, but we have the regulation of groundwater for the first time in California history as a result of legislation passed over the summer. We have the water bond, which provides some funding for groundwater regulation and, I guess, cleaning up contamination. And that is particularly appropriate in your area, the San Gabriel Water Basin, which we know is contaminated, undeniably. And so what's happening with water and groundwater when you think about those 3 issues coming at you at the same moment?
Well, the California has been the only state in the West that hasn't regulated groundwater.
Even Texas.
Yeah, even
Texas has regulated groundwater.
And so people in times of drought, farmers, cities, residents who have wells have just continued to draw water out, and that hurts a lot of basins. For our basin, the San Gabriel Valley Basin, we've actually been adjudicated. We're managed by the courts. We've been that way for decades, and our groundwater basin isn't managed responsibly because of that. But there are basins across the state that aren't, and people are just continuing to draw water. And so these groundwater regulations, for the first time ever, will start to bring some of those people in line.
So will your basin be impacted at all by the regulation?
By the groundwater regulations, no, not the ones that have been passed.
Because you're adjudicated, like you said.
Yeah, we are already regulated in that way.
But what about the water bond? Because the water bond does dedicate some money for groundwater cleanup and otherwise.
Yeah.
It's not a lot, relatively speaking. Is it 900 million?
Yeah.
Right. You could use all of that, I bet.
I mean, the water bond Prop 1 that just passed by a 2-to-1 margin, thankfully provides $7.5 billion in new money over the years, over the next few years,
Right.
for various types of projects. For the San Gabriel Valley, there's money potentially there for groundwater cleanup, which is a huge issue. We're the largest by geographic region or geographic area, largest Superfund site in the entire country in terms of our polluted groundwater basin.
Really?
San Fernando Valley as well
Right.
in LA,
Right.
extraordinarily polluted from industry over the years. That has to be cleaned up before that water is used and sent and sold to residents and
But
businesses.
as I understand it, literally, there's $900 million set aside for groundwater cleanup. We could give the entire $900 million to the San Gabriel Valley, and it still wouldn't be enough to clean up that basin.
It would, and that all that money is definitely not going to be coming
Exactly,
to
but
the
that's my
San Gabriel
point. So
Basin.
what do you do?
The San Gabriel Basin Water Quality Authority and other water agencies are going after those that were responsible for some of the contamination. But yeah,
Litigation.
it's a very big question mark how we're going to come up with that funding over the next 20, 30, 40 years to clean up the basin and continue cleaning up the basin.
So as we speak today, though, are you able at all to access groundwater from the San Gabriel Valley Basin?
We are. We're actively, water producers are actively taking water out of the basin every year. Hundreds of thousands of feet of water is pumped, treated, and then sent out for use.
And the key is that the water is treated, which, as I understand it, is expensive.
Yeah, adds enormous costs to the cost of water and producing water.
Are you a basin that is at risk or already passed into overdraft? Because as I'm sure you know, in the Central Valley, there are several basins that have gone through that process and they're experiencing subsidence. In the coastal areas of California, there is intrusion, seawater intrusion in their groundwater basins. Where is the San Gabriel Valley Basin?
We are at historic lows. If you look at the graph that comes out periodically from the Water Master, the graph, they have to redo the graph because it's going to the bottom. It's never been this low before. And so we're coming to unforeseen, we've never experienced levels of drought like this before.
Are you at risk of subsidence, or are you a basin that would see seawater intrusion?
Saltwater intrusion for us is not as much an issue because we're not along the ocean.
Right.
But impacts to our groundwater basin that may be permanent are things that we're looking out for, and the Water Masters is making sure we don't run into those kind of problems. So far, things have been okay, although if those that are along the northern portion of kind of the basin, some of the wells are starting to run dry, and so they're imposing more stringent water restrictions for those areas and starting to turn on additional sources of supply other than groundwater. But over the next year or so, if the drought continues, if we don't get the type of precipitation that we are hoping to get, we'll see mandatory water restrictions in a lot of these communities.
Right now, you're voluntary.
All of them are voluntary, other than the ones that were passed by the State Water Board in terms of hosing down walkways with nozzles and not washing your car.
Are you imposing fines for water scofflaws?
Our district itself isn't allowed to impose fines. We're a wholesale district.
Oh, interesting.
So retail districts, those that sell water directly to people can, cities can, and some of them are. Most of them are not. Many of us are still in a stage of educating people. There are people across our communities that understand we're in a drought, but they haven't really felt the impact and really haven't changed their behaviors.
When's it time to stop educating and start fining?
I think it's probably in the next year or so as wells begin to run dry, if it continues to stay dry in terms of rainfall.
Yeah, I was just in Philadelphia and it was raining, and it was actually an emotional experience because we haven't had rain in so long.
It barely happens, and when it does happen, it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
We haven't been getting the kind of rainfall that we typically get, or that we need to be getting.
Right. Okay. His name is Thomas Wong. He is a director with the San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District. My name is Brad Pomerance, and you are watching California Edition.